It is now 1 o'clock. I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. We will now ask for, well, before we approve the agenda or adopt the agenda, there is a need to add an item, an executive session right beneath unfinished?
Ma'am?
Beneath unfinished business?
Yes, ma'am, we'll add it after unfinished business.
Unfinished. Okay, so we're going to add an executive session after unfinished business. So with that said, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Don't we need to give a reason for?
We can do that now. It is, it would be pursuant to 30-4-70 subsection A2. It'll be for the discussion of proposed sale or purchase of property, code name Property I, using ARPA funds. And council may, or this committee may need to take action on that as there are exigent circumstances. And that would be the amendment that's necessary.
Okay. With that being said, ma'am, I'll make that motion. Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda with the addition of the executive session. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Excuse me. We have the minutes from June 24th, 2024 of the Finance Committee meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion. Second.
It's been moved and second that we adopt the June 24th, 2024 Finance Committee minutes. New business. First item under new business is the trash compactor replacement.
Right. I spoke with y'all early, or a few months, or a month or so ago about the compactors. They're coming up on around 15 years old, and some of them starting to wear through and all. And we're looking at starting to replace them, and I can do it in a couple ways. I can do it, maybe 2 per year, or didn't know if y'all wanted to look at going ahead and possibly using some of the ARPA money to do all. It would be 7 right now. We've got 7 centers, and we would be looking at replacing 7 of them. They're running, and we would look at, we'd have to bid it. We're kind of in a predicament there with the bid process, because each company has their own type of containers, and being that this company won the first bid, other companies won't fit with these. So it's kind of a sole source thing as far as this company, but they've always, everything we've ever bid, they've always got the bid. They've come in reasonable. These compactors are running somewhere around $28,000. Now, if we were able to get all 7 at one time, it would put us able to possibly negotiate a little better price, hopefully. Didn't know, which way y'all wanted to proceed.
Madam Chairman, got a question. Mr. Eubanks, how old are these compactors?
These compactors, we bought 7 to start off with, 13 and a half years ago.
Okay. Now, maybe I misunderstood last time we discussed this, but it was not the compacting mechanism that was wearing out.
Right, the
bin.
containers. You got a head that does the compression into a container. It's the containers that we're replacing. The head plus the containers, somewhere around $38,000 to $40,000 a piece. Or if I'm not mistaken, around 13 years ago, I think we were paying around $20,000 for these, the whole set.
Is there not a fab shop that could build the bin?
You can, and I know someone's already asked me that question, but you're adding metal to them. So you're gonna pay for them when you go across the scales. You pay an additional weight to do so. We've done.
I'm not talking about patching them. I'm talking about, like, we've got some facilities here in
If it's not
county.
a patented container, then I think you could easily put it out for bid to see if it would be cheaper to purchase from the existing manufacturer or, you know, maybe get some built locally.
But not, I'm talking about total reconstruction.
Okay. And
Is that a
we,
possibility?
not sure, as long as I wouldn't think if you affected the head, where the head hooked to it, I think anything would be, you know, you can weld and do, my thing was if you start adding metal to metal, you get more weight and you're gonna pay for it when you cross the scale.
That makes sense, but, what he says makes sense too.
If it's not, like I say, if it's not protected by a patent, then I think it, you know, if you wanted to take it to
And we could do that, I mean,
see if,
I think we still got some wiggle room, and let me see if that's doable. We've got to, if you're gonna use this ARPA money, we've got to know fairly quick. I mean, but I mean, I can certainly get some prices and see if that, we know of a few places within that
It may not even be doable, I don't know.
I can find out.
I don't wanna slow you down.
Nope, I like that, I can do that.
I think it's a great concept to look at anything long-term capital investment that we could use some of this ARPA fund to keep us from having to come back to the table and find it in the
Oh, yeah.
budget later.
But you can still use the ARPA money to,
Do this very thing,
right. Okay, thank you.
all right? We can do that.
Okay, so you're gonna check to see in a reasonable amount of time, so we still might be able to use
Yes, ma'am.
ARPA.
Sounds good to me.
We're just gonna kick the can a little bit further, not much. Mr.
I got you, I got you.
So we're just gonna put down here, you're gonna follow up. All right. Item B, grant expiration, Sheriff Streeter.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. I apologize for not being at the meeting, last meeting. I went under the knife, had a little bit of skin cancer, and they dug it out. Felt like they did it with a backhoe when they were doing it, but everything's fine. They said they got all the bad skin out, so thank you. And I have Major Vaughn here with me, because I think he talked to y'all last time, so any follow-up questions, you know, he's here, so. And not being here, I'm a little bit in the clear as to what all was said at the last meeting, but I do know we are looking at, we have 2 grant positions. I have Shaq Wren here, who's our gang investigator, and he's one of the officers involved on the grant. And the other one is Weldon Gainey, who is our domestic violence investigator. And Weldon is actually having surgery today himself, so that's why he's not here. But we are, what we've asked is that council would pick up the funding for these 2 slots so that we wouldn't go backwards in our staffing. In light of the recent events and around the country, but around Chesterfield County particularly in the last month, we've had 4 police officers ambushed in their vehicle. And we are very fortunate that we hadn't had funerals to attend. They need to go buy lottery tickets, those officers. That's what I told them, go buy a lottery ticket because you're very lucky. But they weren't just shot at, they were ambushed. And so I feel this is not the time for us to be going backwards in our numbers. And I'd be glad to answer any questions, Madam Chairman. We also have some figures for you too that we prepared to bring to you.
Okay.
I got some figures, just sort of a breakdown of what Wren does and Weldon does, and of course, I've got some statistics as far as what the deputies have done, call volume wise. To where, like I say, if we end up having to absorb them, they're gonna have to be moved from somewhere, whether we pull it from investigation, keep the road there, or vice versa. But I don't know exactly, I only made 5 copies, so I didn't know who I was on.
One,
But
two, three, and,
this this here is the Weldon, the domestic violence, and that's the gang, and who else?
Myself and Ms. Burns, and I guess the administrator.
So, basically, in a nutshell, if we were able to keep these officers, once they come off the grant, they can do absolutely anything. I mean, they can still be, oriented, driven on what they were doing as far as Ren doing the game, because, just to give you an example, when we had this meeting last month, the next week, we had 3 drive-by shootings in Deja, which he ended up working, hasn't been proven yet that it was gang-related, no, but it most likely is. Like I told y'all earlier, there's only certain ways to get labeled as a gang. Remember, you have to, number one requirement is to self-admit, so it's hard to just say, yes, I'm a gang, but we do have that. And of course, Weldon is domestic violence, and we all know that that's a large part of our job. Now the deputies, they answer 100% of the domestic. But Weldon Gainey gets all 100% of them as far as the follow-ups, the PD coalition, because what he does for us is better than anybody that we have dealing with this domestic violence. When he goes to bond here. And he gets verbiage put in these bonds to where if they get out on bond, through the help of PD coalition, which they wrote letters in there for him, but I think he's actually done a wonderful job for the full circle as far as the domestic violence. He's so able to keep these people from getting out of jail. If he does, he gets this verbiage put on the bonds and can put them right back in jail. And that's a small portion of his job that if we have to move him somewhere else or we're gonna lose our ability just to have him go do that. And not only that, he would be investigating regular property crimes as well. Because if the person's there, the deputy arrested. Then he does the follow-up photographs, 2 or 3 days later, he'll go take pictures of the secondary bruises and all that. Or the deputy don't have that time, he's having to run over here and answer 10 more that just happened in the last 24 hours. So that's sort of a gist of what he would do, but he would still be able to do the other issues of working property crime. And whatever else we have, a murder or whatever, to where on the grant he could, that's all he could do, or we would be penalized and with the grant. Of course, Ren, I mean, all his stuff, his numbers are in there too for this year, and his is specifically, his job mostly around drugs and the violence part of it. A lot of our break-ins is where they just break in and steal guns. Typically, that's going to be a younger person that's gang-related, trying to find firearms for that particular, what they do. Of course, that's what he does now. But if he would be able to do whatever we assign him to do, he can do as our normal employee. But first and foremost, there's no way I can lose any of the 20 different slots that I have to be able to keep something else afloat. 20's not enough in the end. He's talking about 5 on the shift. And the highs broke down. I got 2 in the west, 1 in the middle, 1 in the east, and a roving supervisor. And the man in the middle works from 742 to County Line Dirt Road. That's it there. So nobody in the south really has protection until somebody flies down there, and then we get a complaint that somebody deputy speeding because they have to go from 742 to County Line Dirt Road. So I can't afford to lose somebody off to be able to keep that afloat. We have 5 criminal investigators and 4 narcotics. Narcotics just went before within the last month and a half. So either we'd have to drop the criminal down to from 5 to 4 and then 3 to narcotics or something. But we just don't have enough right now to be able to do what we need to do sometimes. Sometimes we could have 50 people working.
Everybody in the sheriff's office, all 4 officers, wear multiple hats. With the exception of ones on the gangs, they're new to what the gang says they can do. And all of them got, I think, gang, they have to, like, well, don't have to do strictly domestic violence. People coming out from under the gang, if you still have him on staff, you can do anything. So, it's actually would be better off. We're not a big enough department, we can have people specialize we all do a lot of different things. Last year, the patrol answered almost 17,000 calls. A little over 17,000 calls. And calls for service was not good at. I mean, there'll be more next year than there are this year, there'll be more the year after that. That'll keep going because we have more people in. People don't go into the county, just ride around, look at the houses being built. So the call for service is not good around. And I think they did about 7,000 what we checked last year. Does that sound right?
It's on there,
I think this is where a little bit of the heartburn comes from is no doubt you need more deputies. No doubt. If anybody up here knows it, I've lived it. And not taking anything away from Ren, I think his position as the gang investigator, his numbers ain't gonna look as good as Weldon's because Weldon is really, really working in that position. And that's why I didn't request any of the information about Weldon because me being in the bonding side, I see what Weldon is doing and the good work that he's done in that position. Not taking anything away from Ren and his job, but I think he's been pulled away from the gang side on a lot of different things, and he's been wearing a lot of other hats because that's what he's been asked to do, and I understand that. What's hard for me to swallow is that in June, before the budget, we had the discussion that y'all were having a really hard time retaining employees. And so we had the discussion about that surplus money that y'all weren't aware of that has now been, brought to the light about trying to do something to get incentive to be able to retain employees. And so since then, let's see, you got about $130,544 of that money left right now. And 90 days later, you go from being, we can't get enough people to fill these spots because we're struggling retaining employees, to now you're fully staffed and, didn't take into consideration you might need to hold a couple spots at the last minute because you didn't know if these were going to be taken care of. With council in the position that we're in right now with administrator and trying to make those changes, we don't just have, just right after the budget is finished, we don't just have surpluses of money to fill spots with. So I really feel like that, it's unfortunate that we didn't get to take care of this before the budget came through. But with having that surplus money and the turnover, I know you don't want to lose anybody, but I think the turnover and the surplus money would be a reasonable way to get us to next budget cycle where we could actually make plans for this instead of just coming out of the pocket.
We fill every position on the road.
Sheriff, would you get in front of the microphone, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We filled every position on the road. And every investigative position, as we could, as we got good qualified people, we filled them because we cannot go without the numbers we have for road deputies and investigators. That's going backwards, so we can't, we couldn't get the job done. So what we did do is when we got, like I said, we got good people, and the reason we were able to do it was that with what's going on in Marlboro County, they're playing musical chairs over there with who the sheriff is, and so a lot of their people opted out. So we got some from them, we got some from Darlington, and so we are full. We did fill all the positions on the road. What we didn't fill is we have a lieutenant's position on the road, but that's not a shift. That's a lieutenant that was Clarence's position. We did not fill that, and we have one position here at the courthouse, where we're short one position at the courthouse. We have no other positions full. We lost some positions because we had to pick up the two MACB officers when They pulled out of the contract, so we lost funding, which means we lost positions, and we don't even have those on the org chart anymore because
That was my question for me. Sheriff, for me, that was my question. With those funds coming in from MACB are non-existent anymore. And then you lost, if I'm thinking correctly, you lost 2 employees that went to MACB.
that's correct.
One of those was a Jefferson employee that's also a contract that you have got to serve.
We hired a fellow by the name of Michael Driggers for that job 2 weeks ago, because we have to have somebody there, and then they start fussing about them. paying
Sure,
us.
I would too.
But when I spoke last month, I told y'all on the job opening we had with Jefferson, because I knew it was coming up, but I had forgot about Clarence, because I hadn't had Clarence in a little over a year, however long he's been gone, so it just slipped my mind, it wasn't like I was purposely trying to hide that, I just had forgot about that position. But we had to hire somebody for Jefferson, and we got a fellow that seems to be doing a really good job, originally from Chesterfield, moved back up here from down in the road country, we wanted to come home. We had that opening in Jefferson.
If I'm understanding this correctly now, Sheriff Streeter, the reason you're here is to ask us to pick up the money for those 2 internal slots for your victims advocate and,
No,
For
sir.
the domestic violence and the gang investigation.
I'm sorry, domestic violence and the gang investigator.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Are those numbers here, Mr. Foreman, as far as what it's gonna cost?
It's about $10,000 a month, to pay both of them. I think that's what Ms. Michelle said. I didn't have that the other week.
Okay.
But she did some
That was just a piece of the puzzle that was missing for me.
Whenever to June until we can make this more formalized.
And I think the Alpha Center, is the Alpha Center trying to help y'all with another spot too?
They've applied for a grant.
The scary thing too, and I know y'all wanna help us, and I'm sure you will somehow, some way, one day, or however, but it's gonna be hard to get us to get people to take a grant job if they're always that unknown down the road. And I'm not, here we are gonna be having this conversation again one day. I mean, I know I would, which I ain't got, I got more days behind me than I got in front of me to be in chair's office. Say what I need to say, like it is what it is. But, we gotta, have a precedent for that as well, because it's hard to base a livelihood and pay for babies and children that, grant jobs not run out. And wholeheartedly, we had all intention for this grant renewal, because Mark had went through all that process, and they were coming to meet, and yet the meeting was to tell him he wasn't gonna get it. I mean, but, we were under the scope of understanding that we was gonna try to get it again. And then, yeah, we probably should have done a better job maybe preparing for this day with this past budget, but we was under the thought that they would do it. That's why we here now.
Got one more point, if I may. And, Mr. Ford, this actually reflects on your end of the county, not negatively, but with the growth that you were telling us that's going to happen up there. And I've had this discussion a little bit with the administrator. Now, that is supposed to be in town, correct?
Correct.
All right, but that does not mean the town is going to handle that exclusively, because when they need help, I know who they're gonna call. I know exactly who they're gonna call. And there's gonna be times when they need help. With that big an influx, we're gonna need more people on the western end. Don't y'all see that coming?
And they're not all gonna live in town because of the impact fee. They're gonna move to the 2 miles from Jefferson, where they ain't gotta pay an impact fee of $12,000. And there's another thing that, y'all may not understand, yeah, they gonna live in town, but yet when they don't make their house payment, it's gotta be kicked out by the circuit court judge, yes, you gotta kick them out of the sheriff's department. If you don't come to court and pay the child support, we gotta go lock him up. If you pays and charges him and has to come to court, if he don't come to court, we gotta go lock him up, because they can't serve a court of record, so it has to come to the sheriff's department. So yes, we might not have to go out to the 1085 or the domestic or the alarm, but there's still a whole abundance of where we're gonna have a hand in it somewhere in town.
That was my point.
Yeah.
I just think that that's not in the immediate, that's not the immediate issue as far as, we need to make plans for that, but as it stands today, you know, we don't have any,
Will any of that come to fruition for next budget cycle?
very little. I mean, they hadn't got the roads paved or anything else. So, I mean, that's just me personally.
Another thing that concerned me, is I believe, now, I don't want to misquote you, but didn't you tell this group that there were 2,000 homes coming?
Correct.
You put forward to the house, that's a lot of folks, which hopefully is gonna bring in more revenue, but if it's in town, certainly they're gonna pay town and county taxes, but you, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nan.
But I was just gonna say that's on down the road,
Oh, yeah.
and we're looking at something more immediate.
Yes, ma'am.
Between
Yes,
now
ma'am.
and June 30th.
The question we're trying to answer today is how and if we can fund this from today till next budget year. That's the only thing we're trying to solve today,
Okay.
right? Is that right? I'm just making sure, okay, so,
Correct. And looking at around $120,000.
well, it'd be from what?
I'm sorry?
Would it be from now, or are we backing up and having to cover this from the beginning?
It'd be 90,000.
90, $100,000.
Okay,
So-
$100,000. And, I talked and spoke with the attorney about it, to do supplemental appropriations, we'd have to do 3 readings and a public hearing. That's not gonna help them, but we can do emergency appropriations, if that's what this body chooses to do.
Okay.
That's the question we need to have answered.
All right, I got, one thing you said, Spence, that I get 100% is as you have these grant positions come available. I understand what you're saying there. I wanted to touch on that for a second, where it's hard to get people to take these jobs if there's no guarantee, but that's one of those things that there's never going to be a guarantee there, because if you, I mean, as much as you'd like for it to be, that's kind of impossible to foresee the future. But I understand what you're saying, and you want to try to set the tone where we can have what we need, and if that includes having to pick those up, then we can sort that at the time. It's hard to use that to grow your department, right? Because that looks like you're trying to, it's almost like eliminating a position over here to give raises and then come back and asking for those positions. It kind of is that same type battle. One thing I wanted to clear up, or a question I had, when we met, I guess right at the beginning of, or the end of the budget, when we finalized that, there were some positions that hadn't been filled previously that left a surplus of money that we talked about being able to do some things with. How much of that, is that the number that you were talking about was the 130, I thought was about what was available? Is there any reason that we couldn't utilize that to fill this till we could work it out on the next budget? I mean, I didn't know if you would use that up, if there was any left over now. I mean, could we use that just to cover you until we could get it
Well,
in the budget?
uh,
I didn't know if there was a legal issue that Mr. Ruffner needed to address on that, or?
Can I, to answer Mr., I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's been addressed that that money's already been used for.
That's what I, yes, you know, we don't even have a chief deputy. That's off the charts anymore, because we don't have the money for that, because we've already used that money. So the department is actually
I was referring
shrinking.
to the slots from the detention center that.
Oh, that money's used for, by this body said that we could use that money for incentives to hire people and possibly to give maybe a bonus to employees that have gone above and beyond. And we've had some to do that. When in the hole we were in because of deputies that we had to get rid of because they got charged. We had 5 within a month. That's a pretty big hole. That's a whole shift that we lost. So we were in a hole, and that's what that money's, my understanding from what y'all voted on, that's how we could use that money.
But
Is that right?
according,
Well, that was before we had another issue, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't use it for that, but if this is a more pressing circumstance, there's only X number of dollars. We don't get to just, we can't magically make the money appear. We've got to find it somewhere. And
so far, the only thing that's came out of that account, according to these, are 2 officers' training payouts. So that came off the 160, which leaves a balance of 130. So really
And we just got a bill one day last week, it was like $7,000 for Tyler Paving, so. but we
Yeah,
had
another-
paid them out of that money. So there would be an additional $7,000, $8,000 come out of what you got.
So you'd roughly gonna have 123 left in that account, and so, you know, when we had this discussion at budget time about that surplus money, you know, you're actually able to accomplish the goal of getting everything full, but still hadn't used that money, so it's just it's hard for me to see us just, you know, we were complete opposite of this problem 90 days ago. Now you still have that money in the bank, but you solved the problem and needing another 100 grand now. It's kind of hard to swallow and this close to the budget.
So am I understanding correctly that you still have a little over $100,000 of that money that you had in the past that could be used for these two deputies? Is that what I'm understanding?
That was not my understanding when I stood here and y'all gave us that money to use for hiring bonuses and,
Right. And I know exactly what you're talking about, but since you haven't used it, my question is, you haven't used it and you've gotten things kind of, you know, maybe straightened out a little bit, could you, instead of using it for that purpose, since you got everything going pretty well now, and this is a immediate need for your department, could that money not be used for this immediate need for your department?
if y'all tell me it can. I mean, I'm going by what I was told by the committee during the budget.
That's exactly what we told.
I know.
I want to say,
And we have promised
Michelle, you helped me.
bonuses that we,
Around $200,000.
It was the 160 to do sign-on bonus. Yeah, to do sign-on bonuses. It was those 4 salaries from the detention center to do sign-on bonuses.
And there's 100, how much is that left?
Like 130 something.
these are, these-
130,544 minus the 7,000.
But then you got that 7 more thousand, because he's only utilized that for the 3 officers, but that's what he simply has used it for, is sign-on.
Madam Chairman, I understand where you're going, but it bothers me a little bit with the statement you just made, if this body tells you to. I don't want to tell him what to do with money that we've already given him and he controls. I don't feel comfortable with that, but.
It's up to
if he's
him.
willing to do it, you know, that's one thing, but now, I don't want to have to deal with this again. You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Smallman? I don't want to have to deal with this again.
We're gonna deal with it when the budget starts next year regardless. 'Cause it's gonna come up then.
But until then, I don't want to have to deal with it again. Are we doing the prudent thing by doing that?
I wasn't saying he had to. I was asking, since the money's still there, because this is something that his department needs, would he be willing to use it? It's still at his discretion. If he says, no, you know, I'm not gonna use it for 2 new deputies, or to keep these 2 deputies, that's his decision. I was asking.
Yes, ma'am. That's, you're exactly right, and I understand that, but his response was, if this body tells me to. You can't help what comes out of his mouth, I know that. But Sheriff, we're kind of twixt in between. I'm like Mr. Smallwood. I want to help you, but is there a way that you can help yourself?
I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to keep this officer and the other officer on the payroll.
I don't think anybody's looking for you to go
And,
down to 2 officers. I don't think anybody wants that at all. It's just figuring out the best way to do it. For me, and I'll just say this out loud, I feel like if we could, you're utilizing that just if you have to give money here and there. I would almost rather not, this kind of eliminates what you said, we won't have to talk about it anymore. If you use that say it was $90,000, that leaves you another 30-ish to still be able to do some bonuses with. If you went through that with bonuses and things in mind, if you utilized all that up and you were at a 0 balance, and it came down to whether you could replace people or not, I'd almost rather say, let's do that, and then come to us and let's see if we can, because it's easier for us to say, well, we can find $5,000 or $10,000, easier than we can 90. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because nobody wants you to lose the deputies you have, I don't think, by any stretch. It's just figuring out the best way to do it. And I don't know what that is, I'm just talking out loud, and that's the way I figure things out most of the time, but, I don't know if I have anything else to add to it besides that or not.
Sometimes I talk too much, even out loud or
Me
to
too.
myself, but whatever bonuses that you give out of that money or any other monies, that's something we're gonna have to honor at next year's budget. Am I correct?
I didn't understand that.
I'm not sure I understood it.
If I- It's a one-time bonus, so when it's gone, it's gone.
One-time bonuses,
Yes, sir.
I thought you were talking about
We
salaries.
should do that fairly, but
Just a one-time bonus, it's not connected to the salary, all right? That's where,
The point I was making is, that where I
Ignorant
said
fact.
this would go against what you said and not having to touch it again. The point I was, and I probably didn't say it very clearly, was if you ran through the remaining $30,000 and we had to have a discussion over whether to help you find that bonus money, then we'd have to, it wouldn't be the same topic, but it would be, because of the same topic, we'd be sitting here having a conversation again. But I'd almost rather have it over $5,000 later than
Sure.
90 to 100 now.
I was just confused, and I apologize if I made any confusion.
Well, may I ask a question to the committee? So if we do that and we use that money, where do we stand next budget cycle? Because that only pays their salary for the end of this budget. So we right back where we are. I'm going to be standing up here asking for
However
them to
we
be
pay for
funded.
it, that's gonna be the case. We're gonna have to sort this out at the next budget, because it's got to be, but I don't see any way to avoid that. That we have to sort it out.
There's no permanent answer today, period. So it's the same situation regardless.
It would be the same situation, but I would think you'd be better off then, at budget time, than you are now, in getting $90,000 today.
Basically, because it's easier to put it in at budget time where you can account for it than it is to try to figure out where to find it 3 months later, because we've already got the numbers on paper.
That's, this might be speaking a little bit out of turn, but just trying to put it into perspective with us going through administrator things, trying to see what we need to do, we're going to have an overlap. We're going to have an overlap at some point between now and the budget cycle where we're going to be paying 2 times the highest salary we have in the county because of that transition period. So that we just don't have a lot of surplus funds set aside that we can take away from, and we know we're gonna have funds for that also. So it's not like we have plenty and we're just playing hardball. We don't have it,
A bit of an unusual predicament.
That's right. I mean, we're obviously okay financially if we have a unexpected expenditure come up, but this is a little bit more of an expected expenditure that we got to try to address.
Sheriff, if you have to use the money that you have there, the $123,000 or whatever it is that going to negatively affect your department?
Absolutely. They worked through this time this last few months where it's been working double shifts and triple shifts and no days off and worked it with the promise of there'll be something for you at the end of it. So, but y'all didn't promise them that, I did.
He's right, it is our problem, because as this county continues to grow, his department's gonna have to continue to grow. As you know, crime's gonna continue to grow. What the answer is, I don't know, but,
I don't know what the jail numbers are as far as employee wise, I never really kept up with that. But say for instance, this year we got another spillover of not hired people, and if y'all had another money left over like you did this past year, that maybe that's something y'all consider to do next year, maybe we can do it then, since we can't maybe do it this time. As far as the bonuses, if there were money, we're not gonna purposely not hire people for the jail for that reason, but they have struggled with hiring people too. And I know this ain't something you wanna do every year, but maybe that's something.
We cannot not hire for the jail because we're mandated by the state how many we have to have there.
I don't think it's up to us at all to dictate how you utilize the money that you have at your discretion. All ours is just looking at it from the back seat, saying you still have this available. making suggestions, but how y'all utilize and manage your money is y'all's problem, not our problem, you know.
This past budget was the first time that's ever been an option, if y'all have money to give us for bonus. I'm just asking if that come around next year, if we're not able to do it. Because the only one I can really speak of right off the top of my head that we promised a signing bonus to was Lauren Brock. But she met the requirements to be, there might be one more in there that I'm drawing a blank on, met the requirements. And then, you know, like these ones we had to pay for, we can't give them a signing bonus and have to pay Darden County $27,000 to hire them. I mean, we're not gonna give you a bonus for that.
That's right.
We're just giving you a better opportunity. I feel like the money will get you there, and how you treat them is what keeps them there.
It's not like we just had extra money to give you all. That's not what happened. It was for slots that were already allocated that you all did not hire for. And that was the money that was given for you all, so.
I'll explain, I'm just saying, if say that happened again next year, and there's 5 or 6 people we hadn't hired throughout the year, that you have another surplus of money since that salary wasn't spent, then maybe something I might consider. I mean, I know you don't do it every year.
We're hoping you're not that short-staffed. We hope you don't have that many positions available.
Well,
I have a question.
I don't think it would have sat there if you'd realized it was there either.
No, we didn't know.
We didn't know it.
That's the best kept secret in the county.
So, question I have.
We
is,
put it out there.
would it make sense, if possible, and this is a Mr. Ruffner question, to discuss possibly, we've got to have the conversation about ARPA money? This is not a permanent thing, it is to cover a gap. Is that something that this money could be used for?
That's really a Ms. Stanley question, too.
I don't think you can cover a salary. You know, they were pretty strict on like the one-time things, you know, you had to, pretty much had to relate it, yeah.
No, $90,000.
But just, yeah, but just to cover just a salary in general, I don't think, yeah.
I'm just playing on the words.
One thing I will say, me and Mr. Eubanks have discussed this a little bit on the phone. One thing that I see this ARPA money being able to help this situation is if we can take some capital improvements that we're gonna have to make over the next 5 years or the next 3 years, and we can utilize this ARPA money to acquire those things, it will give us savings on our future budget for next year, and that would probably open up the opportunity for us to have a real discussion about employees, because we'll have that money from a allocation that we can use it for employees. I think it's the timing. It's nothing personal or nobody trying to hold anybody back. It's just the timing is horrible as it relates to our money, and that's the real issue.
We've already absorbed 2 salaries into where we were, using slippage and different things. This is before we knew about the money from the jail. So, in the since July 1 of last year, a year ago. So we've lost a couple of slots that way, but we've kept people on board because when MACB let them go, pulled out a contract, we picked them up.
Right.
Through positions we had that were not full, just exactly what we talk about now. But I'm not getting those back, so I just, I don't want to dig too big a hole here.
I understand. You said it would negatively impact your department if you used those funds to cover this.
They have been told, the department's been told what the money was going to be used for, and bonus, signing bonuses and bonus money for the officers that worked above and beyond during this tough time.
I actually did reach out, I didn't do it, I had an officer do it for me, but I didn't know who to contact. We got the information from Lancaster Police Department, the sheet, the contract, or whatever that they would have to fill out, so if you quit, you have to pay the money back and all that stuff, so we actually, and that was for Laura Brown, that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head that had qualified for it. And she did take down Form 7 at my request to get me that documentation, so we would have that, whoever, whether it be legal or find it, and then they just
Madam Chairman, if I may, and then I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, because I seem to get in trouble every time I open it, but would it be something to consider that if we split this shortfall with a supplemental appropriation to try to keep it, the negative impact as low as possible? Is that something we would want to consider?
When you say split it, what do you mean split it?
Where they needed, what, 90,000?
Roughly about $10,000 a month.
Okay, $90,000, that's 45 to you and 45 from us, is what I'm looking at.
But basically you're saying y'all would fund one of the positions.
Sir?
We would pay half of theirs out of our money that they give us for bonus, and then they would pay the other. They would pay for one, we would pay for one between now and the end of this budget.
This is just a thought now, this is
What I'm
not.
saying. Yes, sir, I'm good with that. Look here, if y'all fund anything, I'm delighted.
Oh, I know.
So I'm not, I'm here asking y'all not asking me for anything, so I'd take whatever I can get. I consider it a win.
Mr. Moore, how do you feel? Yeah, it's a compromise.
I mean, I'm good with it. I think, like I said, what we're trying to do is figure out how to do it, not whether we should do it. I don't think anybody argues whether we need to try to keep the bodies. I mean, it's just,
Right.
I'm good with whatever we can work out. With reason. That's reasonable.
Ms. Burns?
I could do 45 easier than I could do 90 at this point.
45 is easier than 90, you right about that?
At this point.
Are you good with that?
And again, it's not that we don't want to help you all out. We know y'all need the people. It's just, like you said, timing
It is.
is probably not acceptable.
So basically what would happen is that surplus that you were using for bonuses, part of that would be utilized for half of it. And we'll figure out a way to cover the other half on our side. one
That's
way or the other.
correct. That is the thought process now.
But basically by doing that, we would be giving them an additional 45,000 over to their budget, so they would have to take that and take care of it. It wouldn't be us just feeding half to, 5,000 a month, right?
No, it'd be just us covering the 45,000 for their budget.
That's right.
We're going to shift that into his budget.
Correct.
So now, only thing we can do is allocate. We cannot tell him how to spend his money. And he'll take every dollar you'll give him. If you'll buy his lunch, he won't mind. But that's about
Depends on where you
the easiest.
Depends on where we go eat.
That's about the easiest way I know to compromise and do this. And get it done today.
And that's just to get you to budget, so y'all can
That's
decide.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Make no bones about it, just till budget time. And then once the new year rolls around,
Go back to the drawing board.
Okay.
We'll discuss it.
Yeah, we got to go back to the drawing board.
I don't see how we can make any solutions today for the next budget anyway, right?
no. This is just till budget time
Get
again.
them, get this to budget, okay.
So we're talking 9 months, October to June 30th.
Is that the timeline we're talking about?
I can find out 100% if they pay the month of October or if it stops the last day of September.
My understanding, it stopped at the end of September.
It is, the grant runs from October to September.
I'd say 45 is all it's gonna get, so.
Well, there's some more issues we need to take up at budget, and I'll give you an example. We're gonna have to look at securing this building. I mean, we're gonna have to, I feel like, with the way things are getting, that would be one thing I would be recommending.
You think after you leave, we gonna be scared or something?
Well, that's the only thing, y'all losing your security. When Hey, and the last one we had, it was a lady, I'm pretty sure I could took her.
Take down the new concealed weapon sign.
Would once you get full at the courthouse, because you got that one spot you said you need to fill, you think you could figure out a way to random 3 hours a day to rotate somebody in the office over here, just to not nothing set hours so pin that down just to have somebody come through?
I don't see why not. The only time that would be an issue is when they're having court. Well, we usually during court, we have other people over here. I mean, we usually bring 3 or 4 extra people over here for court, so we can do that.
Just try to give them a little bit of protection, if it's possible.
And the towns are great. We've got the panic buttons, and they've hit them here recently, and, you know, the town comes and shows, but, I mean, things are getting tougher through the years. I'll have to vouch for y'all that.
I usually, when y'all meet, I usually try to come over here myself.
Somebody is.
And if I'm not, I usually send somebody else over here, but there's usually somebody here when y'all meet. And we've helped in the past. I know the treasurer's called and helped when he has his sales, and we'll send a couple of people over, but we can do that.
With that being said,
You gonna make a motion?
yes, ma'am, that we do emergency allocation, as we discussed, for the sheriff's department. I'll make that a motion to help fund the 2 positions that he is asking for the next 9 months,
In the amount of,
$45,000.
Second.
it's been moved and properly second that we give an emergency allocation of $45,000 to the sheriff's department to help fund these 2 positions until the end of this fiscal year.
Correct.
All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to thank y'all, for that money y'all paid for McVeigh. Last year, we had $19,000 student, he was gonna pay to have the tennis put back up and all, and we couldn't go forward with the radio. I appreciate y'all doing that, because had it not been put back up, we wouldn't heard the officer last week get shot. The
And-
radio wouldn't been working, so we do appreciate y'all stepping up doing that.
I pray for that officer.
Fire, that's the last time he spoke.
I pray for that officer every night. He is so lucky. So lucky. He didn't stand a chance.
He shot his cord, the shoulder mic, the bullet cut his cord in half, you know.
He still got bullets in him, ain't he?
Yes, from his arm and his side.
He is the luckiest man on the planet, and I'm so glad that he was. I don't want to go through losing another officer. John Crowley was mine and yours Smith's best friend, and you had to walk in there and find him.
Yeah.
And I can't live through that again.
Sheriff, do we have GPS on all our vehicles that dispatch has access to a location?
We don't have to. We had it one time for a short period of time with Jay Brooks. That was a monthly cost, and we don't have it now,
Reason I bring that up, it might be a little bit out of turn, you can stop me if you want to, I don't care. But the reason why I say that, because from my understanding, that officer didn't call in a traffic stop, and so nobody knew where he was at. All they heard was fire, fire, fire. And I think with the way times are now, that if we can, and if y'all are interested in it, I would look at what that system would cost to go on every one of our vehicles, and I think we need to look at
It was
our.
already brought up last year, and it was shot down.
Yep.
Would have been a complete different radio system, and when they keyed the microphone, GPS would have came up in dispatch.
Yep.
So, nobody wants to spend the money.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, for me personally, not for everybody else, I think that would be a very valuable tool. And if it's a system that we could assist y'all with the ARPA funds, I'm all ears.
If I remember right, like I said, I probably need to quit talking. That system cost the county about $1,000 a month.
Yeah, it was like $45 a car, it's through an Air Verizon, air car
Yep.
thing.
And it was,
And it didn't go to dispatch, it was, you could find it on, you had a desktop, and you said, I guess you
Yeah.
could integrate it, but we didn't have it integrated, it was on a desktop.
But now you could interface with it as a supervisor.
Yes,
But you could tell if your two officers were sitting beside the road talking or not at 3 o'clock in the morning instead of checking property.
Something that was used to help prove the case, so, yeah, it comes in handy, but yeah, I mean, it's something we need to look forward to down the road, whatever. It's also safety.
It is.
Had y'all not stepped up to the plate, it's been a whole different ballgame.
Okay.
Thank y'all once again for that. Thank y'all. Take
Thank you. Appreciate what you do, guys. I know you don't get told that very often.
Okay, so moving down to, unfinished business, ARPA funds, Ms. Stanley.
Yes, ma'am. I gave you all a paper showing your remaining balance. So we basically got $5,519,300.88 left.
May I ask a question? What all can that, well, probably be easier to ask what it cannot be spent on. We know we can't spend it on salary.
Yep, you can't use it on debt service, you can't put it back for a rainy day. Anything that we can,
Obligated by the end of this
yes, you have to, has to be obligated.
fiscal year, the calendar year.
Yes, sir. You have to have it obligated and basically you have to have a contract showing where you're spending money. I can't just write down, I'm going to buy 15 vehicles September 15, 2025. I've got to have a PO and have it obligated. And if we're doing any kind of work on like a building or anything, you've got to have a contract showing
Contract's gotta be dated by,
December 31st.
the money has to be actually physically spent by
December 31st, 2026.
26.
Yes.
So we get a contract by the end of 24, we've got 2 years to actually spend it.
Yes, just like I was telling Mr. Eubanks, just take, for instance, the corner. Okay, that's our building. If it wasn't our building, we could have a contract. If you owned the building, then we would have a contract with you, but we would show that we've got an estimate of our guys doing the work. So we're covered because I've got a contract with you. But by this being our building, I told Mr. Eubanks what I'd like to do is have an estimate from builders showing what it would take to do these improvements. But if we're gonna do the work ourselves, then we know that, of course, it would come under budget.
Now, what is this we're looking at? Is that for this?
This is,
Part of the ARPA conversation?
this is two different scenarios of the office, the coroner's office. The first, the top sheet, the one to the right is the block building on the way to Sherrill at our, what do we call that? Where we,
Eleanor.
Dog pound.
yes, that we purchased for that, and it never happened, but we're using it for storage.
Highway
That
now.
block building to the right it's a 1,500 square feet. You could utilize that, and then the building to the left is a brand-new building that he's asking to do there. The second page is a building, and we could, I think, he'd even mentioned maybe across from the jail, where we've already got land or whatever, building from scratch. I mean, that's a brand-new building from scratch. So I give you two scenarios to use there, thinking, knowing what we're faced with, getting a contract and all that,
Yeah.
thinking the block building, we could enter into that pretty easily and build what he's wanting. But that's what he's asking to build right there.
This right here, you said was over there by the.
That would be, or we would have to find him a place to put that. That's a brand-new building.
This last page?
No,
What we're talking about? I'm sorry.
that was his original thing, and it was him and Mr. Uten, I think, met with Mr. Ford and all that, and they've come up with this, the one on the second page. The second page is the one that,
That's fantastic.
yes, that was his original plan from the get-go. The second page is what we was thinking, and I just, that's a lot of money.
Those numbers are, not even close.
What are you talking about, the 963?
Yeah.
But now this one, we would end up, we were talking about go ahead and contracting it outright, and then
Right.
like for the voter registration, the guy, we having a contract with when we bought the building,
Right.
our guys doing the work on that. I think that's what we were talking, trying to put our heads together to do.
Now, he and Mr. Uten worked on this and come up with the numbers. Now, like I said, I don't know anything what things are, building square footage is going by or anything, but.
Okay, I have a question. Mm-hmm. It may be relevant, it may not be, but Mr. Ford just made me think about this. You said these numbers aren't even close. You think they're high or low?
Way high.
Okay, so let's say we contracted this for 963, just randomly. I'll pick this one because it's the page I'm flipped to. And we end up doing it, and we get it under contract, and we're good, we're gonna use ARPA money to do it, and then we finish it up at $750,000. What happens to the other remaining $213,000?
If you have something contracted, and if it comes, and if you get through with the project and you got a surplus monies, they'll let you obligate it to, just say, for instance, we get buy spare units to go there,
You can utilize it for something else, improvements on something else that weren't in the contract at the time.
Yes.
There's an issue with sewer or water or something over there by the Adams.
That's the issue. There's gonna be sewer, I feel certain, because that would have to go on a septic tank over there. 'Cause-
Across from the jail.
Yep, or you'd have to put in a whole new pump station one, which you hitting into a whole nother ball game there. Which, this here, also, now I know the sewer goes down.
They're both going to be in the same boat, ain't they?
Yep, but, I believe the block building's gonna be easier. I'm assuming when you can access that little sewer line that goes from Chesterfield to Sherrall, that goes right by there.
It's
So
on that side of the road.
it's on the other side, but you'd have to
It's on
bore
the
it.
other side, you had to go the road. Guys, I was thinking that the water line was on the other side. Now, I need to go back and see if I can find the manholes. Because you're gonna have to put in a lift station that will overcome the pressure in the sewer line to get it to accept.
Right, you got to force it in there.
Yep.
Probably more expensive than a septic system.
You got to bore that road, it's gonna be a heck of a lot more expensive.
What me and the coroner and Mr. Eaton had discussed was design of a shell metal building, and our guys could upfit the interior with partition walls and all that. So I think this number that they gave us is twice of what.
I think that's smart, but you need to find a piece of property inside of town limits that's got water and sewer. And like you said, just put up shell buildings and let our guys do the work. I mean, look around, they done this, believe it or not. They even built this right here. It was just amazing what that crew could do.
He spoke about being over there at the jail, and I asked him about how much water they were gonna use, because that would depict the size of the septic system. And so they're not really gonna be using an abundance of water at all, other than using the restroom or washing their hands, for the most part. So the septic side, as it is right now, I don't think that's gonna be a huge issue if you decided to do it over there. Now, in 10 years down the road, if you decide to use that building for something else, might come into play. But as it stands for the intended use right now, I don't think that the septic is gonna be an issue for that. It wouldn't be extreme at all. But he said he would kinda like to be out of the view, didn't wanna be up on the road, would suit him just fine. So that's why we had kinda discussed over there, as a possibility, because it wouldn't need a lot of grading and it was land we already had.
That being just, one part of the ARPA money we're looking at using.
Right.
Partly. The other would be the detention center. And then I'll mention the other one when we go into executive session, but, the other thing, like Mr. Ford and I were talking about earlier, this might be a good time to talk to the departments and any upcoming equipment and all that you're foreseeing in the next few years, go ahead and get it.
If we could get it, then it would relieve, budget later for doing other things we need.
Either got to come from there to taxpayers.
That's right.
Okay, this is just food for thought for today, okay? And, we're gonna move on to.
But it's
executive
something that we've definitely got to get on. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, we've got to get this money.
I mean,
Because just like, for the detention center, I've already bid out, and they're actually coming back tomorrow, the engineering firms. So once I select, because I kind of done a bundle thing of engineering, an on-call engineer for any CTC roads or any bridges or anything like that, but then also selected a infrastructure, brick and mortar engineer to handle the detention center. So we'll have our, once we can select that, I've got to get a committee together, we'll get that selected. I hope to do that within the next month. Then we'll have a contract with them. There's our contract that covers on the detention center, and then they'll give us the estimates of what it would cost. So, but, yeah, we don't have, we're running out of time to get all these contracts done.
Now, that being said, would y'all like us to send out, not gonna hurt anything, a
Wish list.
wish list to the department saying, look, can you visualize in the next 3 to 5 years what your department's gonna be needing? And let's go ahead and look at it and give us a list of equipment or anything like that I can bring back to you for our next meeting too, if y'all okay with that.
I'd be fine with that, because like you say, we need to go ahead and kind of settle how this money is gonna be utilized.
Okay,
We're running out of time,
okay.
so, yeah, good idea. What do y'all think? Their Christmas wish list.
Christmas wish list, equipment list.
Equipment.
Like I said, it's just a wish list, don't mean we got to
That's
do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we can look at the list and come up with the things that are gonna be challenging 3 to 5 years, and it won't be hard for us to be able, I think, pick and choose things that make sense.
Right. Okay. But if sewer is not an issue, putting it on this property, I think makes sense. We do own that property, so if sewer doesn't cause any problems. Okay? All right, anything else for the good of the group?
The executive session, it won't take but just a second.
I got a wish list before we enter executive session,
What's your wish
taking
list?
LASIK.
All right. Well, there is a need to go into executive session, and we'll let Mr. Ruffner again tell us.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Finance director interrupted.
Sorry. Sorry. I was just saying there is a need to enter into executive session, and I would ask you to,
Yes.
again, let us know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Be glad to. That is pursuant to Code Section 30-4-70, subsection A2. That is for discussion incident to propose purchase or sale of real property using ARPA funds. Code name is Property I, and the committee may take action after exiting executive session.
With that said, is there a motion to enter?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we enter executive session after a brief
Bathroom break.
5-minute break. session is a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Oh, let me back up. No motions were made, no votes were taken during the executive session. Now, is a motion to adjourn.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn.